Let's record. Thanks, Chuck. Lovely introduction and hello to everyone. Good to see you all. Good to meet you all. And it's great to see people from all around the world. So a little bit introduction of myself. Let's get into what I was going to go. So my name's Evan Spargo, guys. I am a personal and professional coach. I'm also the Director of Training for Australia for Coach Masters Academy, which is an international institute which trains and certifies professional coaches, in particular in the transformational coaching field. Now, a little bit about me. I am someone who used to be in the fitness industry. So I grew up here in Melbourne. I was a personal trainer. I went to Deakin University to exercise sports science, sports management, and I felt that when I was going through personal training, I just felt there was more. It wasn't about giving people exercises. It was more about listening to their problems, listening to what they had to offer to me. And I started to think about, wow, I've got more to offer here rather than just exercise. And so I started to think about other ways that I can help people. And that's when this interest of coaching came to me. I started thinking about, okay, coaching could be a way for me to connect with people, use my strengths. So I'm quite, you wouldn't know it, but I grew up quite introverted, very a deep thinker, quiet, shy. And what that allowed me to do growing up was my ability to observe people. I was able to watch people, listen to people deeper, watch their behaviors, listen to what they think about and talk about. And then I started to create meaning in my mind. I started to get more interested in psychology and understanding how how humans work, how people create their behaviors, their thoughts. And that really inspired me. So a little bit about my story. I grew up in Melbourne. I lived in the United States for 1 year after university to get some world experience as a personal trainer. Came back to Melbourne and I thought there was more to life. So I went to the Philippines. So I'm half Filipino, half Australian. I know there's someone here for the Philippines, so hi there. Lived in the Philippines for 7 years. And while I was there, I was doing personal training. I was doing a few things here and there, and I became an elite sportsman as well. So I play two sports, Australian rules football, which some of you know, but I'm also a rugby player. So I play rugby sevens, and I ended up representing the Philippines in the rugby sevens. Okay, so I spent 3-4 years playing international level rugby, traveling around the world and playing, which was great. I learned many lessons. And in this journey, again, I just felt like there was more to life and I wasn't utilizing my strengths. So I signed up with a coach. And in the process of being coached, I found so many blind spots within my psyche. I was able to talk freely. I was able to be vulnerable, something that I could never be in the past, something as a guy. And in particular is that we want to remain stoic in our presence, the way that we show up. And so in doing that, we conceal things that we're not proud of. We conceal our inner thoughts. We conceal our inner feelings. And that can have a detrimental impact on our mental health. And it certainly did for me. There was times in my life where I remember I was in the Philippines and I was living paycheck to paycheck. I was really struggling to get out of bed. I didn't know what to do with my life. Even I was playing sport, it still was impacting me. And I worked with a coach, and the freedom that I got from accepting parts of me that I disowned, starting to talk about, some resentment I had towards myself, to people around me. When I started to let that go and started to take responsibility for my feelings and started to really just appreciate who I am, that's when I just thought that what I want to do for the rest of my life is help people experience the freedom that I experienced. And that's when I decided to become a coach, right? That's when I decided that I wanted to help people experience the freedom by looking within, by transforming the way that they see themselves so that they can change their reality. And that's what's led me to this career path now, where I make a living from working with people who want to change the way they think, create change for themselves in their lives, and to live a better life, be a better version of themselves. And I also train coaches to help people do that. So what I'm going to do is get into my little slideshow that I've developed. So today, what we're going to do, we're going to talk about is transformational coaching, which is revolutionizing our workplace conversations. So as I've introduced myself, there's a little bit of a story about my background, and I want to share to you with what I learned from my personal journey, as you would have heard. Also, what I learned from being in the fitness industry, what I learned from playing at elite sports, so playing at the highest level, what I learned from my personal coaching with people from all around the world for different ages and different demographics. Working in corporate, I had a stint working in corporate, which didn't work for me, but at least I learned the lessons that I needed. And finally, delivering company workshops. So one thing that I do as well is I deliver corporate workshops, in particular working on confidence, mindfulness, team building, leadership. So I'm going to bring all those together and bring it into this presentation. Now, why I chose this topic about revolutionizing workplace conversations, I'm going to play a video, and this 1-minute video is going to describe to you exactly what I meant. So please watch this.
It's just, there's all this pressure, you know? And sometimes it feels like it's right up on me, and I can just feel it, like literally feel it in my head, and it's relentless. And I don't know if it's going to stop. I mean, that's the thing that scares me the most, is that I don't know if it's ever going to stop.
Yeah. Well, you do have a nail in your head.
It is not about the nail.
Are you sure? Because, I mean, I'll bet if we got that out of there...
Stop trying to fix it.
No, I'm not trying to fix it. I'm just pointing out that maybe the nail is causing...
You always do this. You always try to fix things when what I really need is for you to just listen.
Yeah, see, I don't think that is what you need. I think what you need is to get the nail
See,
out.
you're not even listening now.
Okay, fine. I will listen. Fine.
It's just... sometimes it's like there's this achy... I don't know what it is. And I'm not sleeping very well at all. And all my sweaters are snagged. I mean, all of them.
Yeah, that sounds really hard.
It is. Thank you. Ow!
Oh, come on. Ow. If you would just...
Don't...
Try to see things my way.
All right. So there's the video. I'll just turn that off. There we go. Great. So very funny video. Love it. One of my favorites. I'd love to just into the chat box. Can we just, what's the moral of the story here? What did you get? What was the message from this video as you were watching? I'd love to see you guys' perspective. I need Jody. She said that it's my husband and me every day. Oh, it's fantastic. What can we draw from this story? I'd love to hear it. There you go. Yeah, Jody, you have many fans. Excellent. So what are some...
not doing it.
What are some things we can hear? It's tough being a coach because you have to hang back from the problem. Yeah, great one. What else? From the solution, yeah. Most of the time we can't see our nails. Love it. Great point. We can't see those blind spots. Anything else that we can pick up from this video? You need to listen, not go into solution mode. Oh, what an important point that a lot of people do not have. They don't have this mindset. Listening to the max till you really have been asked to speak. Yeah, great. Excellent. What's with the nail? What's with... Yeah, exactly. Right, so people need to want to be helped. Great. So we've got some really good perspectives on what happened there. Sometimes all we need to do is listen, 100%. You know, exactly right. So thanks everyone for sharing with that. So why I got inspired by this topic about revolutionizing workplace conversations is because you think about our daily lives, right? We spend most of the time speaking with people who we work with, right? They're, apart from your personal friendships and your relationships, your intimate relationships, these are the people that you're constantly talking to. These are people that you're constantly relating to. And what we find is there's so much breakdown in communication in workplaces these days. Okay, and now that we're dealing with a remote workforce, and we're dealing with a pandemic, we can easily get lost. We can become another number. Or if we're a leader, we can lose sight of how everyone's feeling, where everyone's situated, what's going on for them. So there's communication barriers and breakdowns during this period. And one thing that I've learned from working with people and organizations within the last year or two is that they're genuinely struggling. They're struggling with communication, telling them what's happening from their end. Mental health issues are coming on. And so what inspired me was that how can we bring the gap? How can we bridge the gap of communication and inspire people, listen to people, improve the communication, empower our team so that we can become more productive and we can perform better. And this is what today is all about. Now I'm just going to go back into the slides. So this is the overview of today's presentation. So the first thing is I really want to explore what are the major and common issues that the workforce face. Okay. Second, we go into what coaching. So what makes a coaching approach effective? Then we'll start talking about transformational coaching. So this is what I specialize in. So what is transformational coaching and its impact? And then the practical application. So how can I apply what I've learned today? So I'm going to be teaching you some practical tips at the end after you understand kind of what it's all about, that you can start to implement in your conversations, not only personally, but in the workforce, and include in your leadership style if you are a leader. Great. So what are the common issues? So I've broken them down and simplified them from all my studies, from listening to clients, from what I've written back, from feedback from corporations and organizations who have had workshops with. Number one, from a personal point of view, from a team member, I don't feel heard. So many team members and employees just don't feel heard. They don't feel their voice matters. So hence they feel undervalued and underappreciated. So when someone feels undervalued and underappreciated, there's going to be less effort into putting themselves out there, right? There's going to be a lower self-esteem that's induced, which turns into a lesser performance. A lot of people had so much to give, but feel they have no voice. They're either not listened to, or what they say isn't acknowledged, or isn't explored, or isn't nurtured. People have so much to give, but they hold it in, and they just don't have an avenue to voice that. Another one was scarcity mindset. It'd be astounding to see how many employees of a big company feel as though that their job security is at threat. And when we feel when we have a scarcity mindset, thinking that I could lose my job, or something could happen to me, or something, we start to protect ourselves. We start to not put ourselves out there. We start to isolate ourselves. We don't want to communicate with others. We just want to kind of, crawl into a bit of a shell and not let the world in. So what does that happen? Well, then our performance goes down. We stop communicating with people and we isolate ourselves. So this becomes problematic in the whole scheme of things. Another thing is employees keep problems hidden. When we keep our problems hidden, we keep our personal issues hidden, our work issues hidden, whatever it is, it builds a heaviness within ourselves and it affects our performance. I know that when I have a problem and I'm holding it in, I wake up in the morning and I feel really heavy, and that's all I can think about. I don't think about work. I don't think about what I can do. All I think about is the problem. I think about what the problem I'm facing, how it affects me, and it affects my performance. I'm not able to have the output that I can. So there's problems that people hide within themselves, that they keep within themselves, that they don't share. And this creates a heaviness and affects their performance, which can lead to mental health issues. So how many people in the workforce out there are dealing with mental health issues, right? And a common one is anxiety, right? And depressive symptoms. How many people have these but don't talk about them? And when we don't talk about them, we can't we can't start to the process of healing and improving ourselves once again and addressing these issues. So these are the common issues that we see from a personal point of view. From a leadership point of view, I did a survey from these team members asking what is it about their leadership that they kind of criticized, or what didn't they like about the leadership. Number one was always giving advice. Leaders would always give advice and they wouldn't listen to their team members, right? So leaders generally have this thought process of, I need to give an answer, I need to give a solution, rather than let's listen and collaborate and work together. And there's sometimes a lack of trust in empowering another a team member or a subordinate or an employee, because they don't trust that person can do it themselves. Another thing is solution oriented, as I said before, always looking for what we can fix. Here's a solution, here's a band-aid. Essentially, I call it a band-aid effect. We're not actually learning about the problem. We're not looking at how we're thinking about it, we're just offering a solution. We're going to get this, plug and play here. Another thing is saving face. A lot of leaders won't show their emotions. They won't show any vulnerability. They'll be very strong, very stoic. And the problem with that is they don't become relatable. So employees and team members are scared to approach them, right? They start to idealize these people because they think, well, they've got no weaknesses, so therefore it must be me. I must be making mistakes. So it's really hard to connect with leaders. And when you don't connect with leaders, you can't build a rapport. When you can't build a rapport with a leader, then your performance isn't going to be great, is it? You're not going to be motivated to work for this person. And then finally, leaders have a tendency to blame. Look for, okay, who did this? Who needs to take responsibility? Rather than, okay, where was the breakdown? Was it in my communication? Was it in the way we're approaching this subject? These are the things that have been the most common complaints and issues from a personal and a leadership point of view. So next one, why coaching? Great. So coaching, and this is the definition from the International Coaching Federation, which is the governing body for professional coaching in the world. The ICF defines coaching as partnering with clients in a thought-provoking and creative process that inspires them to maximize their personal and professional potential. The process of coaching often unlocks previously untapped sources of imagination, productivity, and leadership. So basically what that is, it captures is that coaching allows someone or a client to maximize their personal professional potential through a conversation. This is what the power a conversation can hold. It is a creative process. Okay, so here, coaching honors the client as the expert in his or her life and work and believes that the client is creative, resourceful, and whole. So I really want to just harp on that point now, is that the mindset of a coach is that we look at other people, we look at our clients as someone who has the answers, right? They're creative, resourceful, and whole. So we trust that whatever they're tackling, they have the ability and they have the capability to get through it, to succeed, to reach their potential, to perform at their best. So that's the mindset of a coach. Imagine if a leader had this mindset, what the difference would be. Now just go back into the slide. So what does a coaching mindset and a coaching approach, what are the benefits of it? Well, it promotes open communication, right? It is a non-judgmental space, because as a coach, when we see our clients as resourceful and whole and having the ability to find their own answers, they create a non-judgmental space. They allow their clients, we allow our clients and we allow our team members to speak freely, to speak openly. As a coach, there's no need to offer advice because we know that the client is the expert in their life and in their work. So we just need to listen and facilitate a conversation that will allow them to create their own solutions. We allow others to think deeper about themselves. And in this process, we find that it empowers employees, right? It empowers our clients because they can start making decisions for themselves. And this builds trust and teamwork. So when a leader trusts someone else, when a leader trusts their team members, there's just more motivation to work. There's more team bonding. There's more trust in that relationship. And when we do this, it uncovers strengths, right? If we use a creative conversational process, it uncovers someone's strengths and their blind spots, and it helps them work through barriers. Okay. So working through barriers that might seem such a hard obstacle at the start, but when you actually talk to someone in a coaching approach, that allows them to start seeing their capability as greater than the barrier, because you unlock strengths in them that they probably weren't aware of, or you allow them to see a new perspective. So these are some of the reasons why a coaching approach could be more useful, right, than the traditional leader authoritative approach. You know, a leader usually talks about, hey, we've got to do this, this, and this. A coach says, what do you guys think? There's a difference in the shift there. So let's go into what is transformational coaching. So transformative coaching, if I was going to sum it up in one line, this is what it is. Change the way that you see yourself and the world, and you will transform the way you experience reality. So change the way that you see yourself and the world, and you will change the way that you experience reality. So what happens is the way that we perceive our reality, we're going to act according. So we see reality through stories, through a narrative. So we go throughout life, and to create meaning for what happens in our lives is we create a story around it. We create a narrative. Once we create that narrative, emotions get attached to that narrative, and emotions get attached to that story. And when we feel emotional, we see the story, we start to act as if the story is true. Right? And then what happens is when we act, when the story is true, we get results according to those actions. And then this becomes a cycle. Right? So where does the change happen? The change happens in the way that we perceive the world, perceive themselves, and perceive the situation. So where the power is that we can change the story that we perceive. We can change the story that we tell ourselves. Right? So if I tell myself a story and I start acting according to that story. So for example, I was giving a workshop today, and one of the workshops I gave was about learning about the stories we create about ourselves in a workplace. So imagine you're in your workplace right now and your boss ignores you or something like that. The story that we create in our mind can be, wow, my boss doesn't like me. Or you can be, oh, did I do something wrong? You know, and you start to think about, wow, am I going to lose my job? See how our minds can start to unravel and start going down a rabbit hole of negativity and false scenarios. And what happens is that we get emotional in that way, and then we start acting according to that story. So we might stop speaking out, or we might kind of avoid our boss from now on. And what happens is that we hold ourselves back. You know, we don't put ourselves out there anymore. And as a result, the consequences are we don't get promoted, we don't get seen, we don't get heard. We leave so much of ourselves within us. And so this becomes a cycle. So let me go back to the slide here. So transformational coaching, it really helps people change the way that they see themselves, right? It helps them make sense of how we relate to our reality, and we shift that perception. So in a transformational coaching conversation, the stories that I was telling you about, we can uncover that story. We can learn about that story and then shift that story into something different, right? So the story we told about the boss, if the boss doesn't acknowledge me or ignores me, you know, the story could go instead, maybe the boss is having a bad day. Maybe he's on the phone. Maybe he's tired. Maybe he had a bad fight just before. Maybe he had an argument. Maybe he didn't sleep well last night. Maybe he just didn't see me. see how we can change the narrative around it and see a wider perspective. That's what transformational coaching does. It allows you to create new meaning from a wider lens. Okay, so just see now the difference in perception of our reality and how quickly we can change it. So this is what this coaching allows us to do, and how we can kind of bring that together is it's a process of self-discovery where we heighten our own self-awareness. So in this process of conversation, we start to learn more about how we see the world. And in this self-awareness, we can learn that maybe this doesn't serve me, or maybe this comes from a belief that I had about myself that isn't true. Okay. So the mindset of a coach is we help people heighten their own self-awareness by pointing out blind spots, by pointing out the way that they're seeing their reality may not be true. What happens if we offered a different perspective, right? So when we engage in a process like this, we start to reprogram our operating system. So what is an operating system? An operating system is the way that we think. Okay, so the way that we think and with the way that we relate to the world is our operating system. So if we can change the way that we think in our everyday lives, right, we start to unlock what is unconscious. And what I believe potential is if we unlock what is unconscious to us, we unlock potential, right? And the more that we can unlock what is unconscious to us, our thoughts, our beliefs, our values, we can reprogram our operating system. When we reprogram our operating system and we can start unlocking our potential, that's what's going to create sustainable change in our lives. That's what's going to improve our performance, not only as a personal, but professionally. All right. So just to recap that again, is that we see the world through stories. We make sense of the world through stories. If we're not aware of how we make sense of the world and these stories that we tell ourselves, we're going to run on an autopilot that's going to keep giving you the same results. Now, if we're able to learn about how we make those stories and then change it, right, and see our perspective from a wider lens, from a new way of seeing the situation, we can then start to reprogram the way that we think on a daily basis, the way that we make meaning in the world. And when we change this at this level, right, we can start to unlock what is unconscious to us. We can start to unlock, through this greater self-awareness, unlock hidden strengths, hidden beliefs, hidden untapped power. And the more that we bring to the surface that is unconscious to us, the greater we can use our potential, right? Because potential, I think, is in our subconscious. It's hidden away from us, but it's there. The more we unlock that, the more we can have greater performance, greater well-being. We feel better about ourselves. So that's what that coaching is. Now, just to go really quickly through this framework from transformational coaching, basically, just to give a really quick rundown, it starts with awareness. So it helps people from a mindset that is very reactive. So one that's coming to you really just fight or flight. They're ready to react to something that's more deeper thinking and deeper thought. Okay. From there, we go into what really matters. So the clarity conversation. So this uncovers what is unconscious to our clients, or what is unconscious to the people around us. Okay. And then with this new learning that they get, with this new perspective shift, right, they can move into creating action. So things that we can create support structures and then help them stay true to the new decision they're going to make. Don't worry too much about this. I just wanted to give you the science behind the process that we had. Now, practical application. So what's the point of with me saying all this and all this stuff about stories and frameworks and this kind of thing? Transformational coaching, yes, it can be used in a professional sense, but it can be used in the way that we interact daily in our everyday lives, right? I'm going to teach you some questions and some principles that we can use that can enhance your conversations, right? If our workforce, now remember, one person is a part of an ecosystem in an organization. So one person's behaviors, thoughts, and the way that they show up can affect another person. And that other person can affect another person. And eventually it affects the whole ecosystem. Right? So it influences the entire organization as a whole. So it's so important that we address what is going on for an individual and get everyone aligned. So transformational coaching is, or a coaching approach, is a way that we can help align people by empowering them, by getting them to unlock their potential, and using the principles of just listening to them, being more open, not having to give solutions, but allowing them to come up with themselves. So here are some ways that we can use this. So the first thing, a principle that we use in coaching, is to create space and expand the mind. So what does that mean? So when you start talking to someone, we want them to give them a safe space to speak, right? So what we can do is we can ask things like, oh, okay, what else can you tell me about that? Or what else? Or tell me more. Or tell me more about this, right? So the first thing that we want to do is, when people are talking to us in general, whether you're a leader or you're talking to a workmate, let's create space in our conversation first. So here I'm listening to you. So please tell me, I might use Jyoti for an example. Jyoti, please tell me more about what's on your mind. See, we can start expanding their mind. Oh, what else about that? So that's something that we want to create first when we're in a conversation. Second thing is that we want to expand the mind. So what do I mean by expand the mind? Well, when we come into conversations, usually our mind is closed. And what I mean by that is that we're very logical in our mindset. We're very, 1 + 1 = 2. We're very much, sometimes a lot of us are under stress and in fight or flight mode. So if someone says something, it triggers us and we could be reactive. So, we need to be mindful of this when we do talk to people, especially in a workplace setting. So what way we can start to expand someone's mind? So when I say expand someone's mind, they become more reflective, they slow down, they start to think using their right brain a bit more, they start to think more creatively and laterally. This is through expanding the mind, and we can do this through different questions. So here are some of the questions you can use. So the first one is, what makes X important to you? All right, so you might be talking to someone and they might be saying, this happened to me today, this happened to me, and I just want to be more confident. So if you hear them, you can say something like, wow, I'm wondering what makes being more confident important to you. And that allows them to talk more about, what is it about themselves that is important? What is it about confidence that they want to explore? And they start to feel heard, right? They start to uncover more of their deeper inner resources. When someone says something interesting to you, and I find this all the time in my daily conversations, people will say a word that has a bit of meaning behind it. And I'll just say, when you say this, what do you mean by that? So when you say dilemma, what do you mean by this? When you say it's a challenge, what do you mean by this? When you say it is inspiring, what do you mean by this? So we start to get really curious about people's language as well. And another thing is, we can ask, what positive difference will being more confident bring to you? So in the X, we can put in there a verb or an adjective or something that our client, our team member, our partner wants. When I'm speaking to my partner, she's a school teacher and she's doing home learning right now, and it can be challenging. And so at the moment, what she's doing is that she's going through getting lots of videos, putting content together, and she's putting into segments. And I just said to her one day, what positive difference will you putting these into segments bring to you, or you making these videos will bring to you? And she's like, you know what? It will make less time for me during the day to teach. And because I've done it already, and I can just send it to more students and they can understand it more. It saves me time, saves them time, and I can focus on what is the most important learning. Right? So using what positive difference is really great for allowing people to see a positive future. Right? Now, direct the mind towards what is positive and possible. 9 times out of 10, and I guarantee this, especially when I speak to my parents, is that 9 times out of 10, your conversations, the people that they bring, the topics, is going to be negative. Especially when I speak to my parents all the time. They talk to me, oh my God, the news, I watched the news. Did you watch the news? Can you see this and this is happening? Oh, how bad is that? Oh, these people, they get so annoyed and they get fuming. And so how do you deal with that as a person? How do you deal with negativity? How do you deal with people coming to you with complaints? A lot of clients who come to me with problems that they have, not things that they want to achieve, more problems. And so one of the key concepts of positive psychology is that studies have shown when you focus on what is it that they want, a goal, that they start to be more creative and their performance actually improves, their well-being improves. So this is what I mean by direct the mind towards what is positive and possible. So when someone's in a really negative mindset, someone keeps complaining, you can ask them this simple question: what would you like to have happen? So simple, because so many people are willing to tell you what they don't want and what they're complaining about, but they're not actually willing to tell you what they want, or they haven't had the opportunity because they're so focused on what is going wrong. So here you can listen to the other person and just think, okay, thanks for sharing. I can see that, this is annoying for you or frustrating for you, but what is it that you would like to have happen? What would you like to have happen for yourself? And they might think, oh, well, maybe I shouldn't watch the news. Maybe I should focus on what I'm grateful for. Maybe I just want my voice to be heard. And then you watch a shift in their thinking. You watch a shift in their emotions. They go from rah, 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 to, oh yeah, I do want that. I do want to make that for myself. And what happens in this shift is when people are in a more of a neutral or positive mindset, when they see something that they want, their ability to connect to their inner resources, their ability to connect to their inner strengths, to be able to start seeing solutions for themselves appear more. Because what happens is when you are in a fight or flight mode, all you're focused in on is survival. And most people, when they're complaining, are very resistant and they're in fight or flight. So when you're in that mode of thinking, you're only going to see what is wrong. Okay, you're only going to see, what's the bad things that can happen, bad scenarios. However, as soon as you start to connect to a goal, something that you want for yourself, that's when the mind opens and you start to see possibilities you couldn't see before. And that's when you start to see potential. You start to draw from your potential. You start to be creative with your solutions. You start to see what I can actually create for myself, and your mood changes, their mood changes. This makes a significant difference from a one little question like, well, what would you like to have happen? And if they say something like, I don't want to be stressed, right? You can say, well, what positive difference will it bring to you if you weren't stressed? And they'll go from, I don't want this to, it will help make me feel happy or make me feel better. And then they start thinking, well, maybe I should just meditate more or slow down. Maybe I should just read a book and not have to be worrying all the time. Maybe I should stop watching TV. And then they start thinking about solutions, right? Rather than complaining about that problem. So that's the shift that we can see within people. And you have an ability to help people with that shift. Now I'll just take you back to here. Finally, reflect back what you hear. A very simple skill, and it's just called active listening. one thing that I notice with clients is that when you can reflect back what they're experiencing right now, your connection with them goes together. So what happens is your connection, when you can listen to what they're feeling, listen to what they're thinking, right? Your connection with them comes together. And this is what we call interconnectedness. Interconnectedness is based on a concept of I see you and you see me, right? It's this namaste. This is what the interconnectedness. And how we open that up is by our ability to listen to other people, and we show that by reflecting back what they're experiencing. So things like, I hear you're feeling frustrated. I hear you're feeling disappointed. I hear you're feeling puzzled. I hear you're feeling confused. I hear you're feeling happy. I hear you're feeling sad. Acknowledging someone will help their ability to connect with you, but also feel heard. They feel appreciated and they don't feel judged. Right? I hear you are thinking a lot about this. I hear you're thinking you wanted to make a new strategy. Again, another way of allowing them to be heard. Finally, I hear you would like to. This is great. So when you ask someone, what would you like to have happen? They would say, I would like to incorporate more exercise into my life, into my daily habits. And you'd be like, great, I hear you would like to, become more active in your life and to incorporate more exercise. And then you might say, well, what positive difference will that bring to you? See how we can use all those together. I hear you would like to gain more confidence. So when you say confidence, what do you mean by this? Or what positive difference will being more confident bring to you? So this is a little bit of a way of bringing all these together. So the first thing, how you can use all these is, firstly, we reflect back what we hear. Client, team member, or friend, partner, I hear you're feeling a bit upset. I hear you feeling frustrated. So I'm wondering, what would you like to have happen? So you use those two together, and they might say, I just want to not be so stressed. I want to improve my sleep, and I just want to be able to relax more. And then you might use one of the top questions and might say, great, so what makes it important for you to relax more? Or what positive difference will it bring to you to relax more? Oh, you know what? Just allow me just to feel at ease, and I won't have to worry all the time because I keep worrying. And then as they're talking, then they start to think, wow, I really do worry a lot. And then they start to realize, hey, I can change being worried. I can change my thinking patterns. I don't have to be worried all the time. And then that's when you can remind them, well, great. Now what would you like to have happen? And they might say, well, I want to be more grateful for my things in life. I want to be more appreciative of you and my workplace and this kind of thing, and see how we can bring these together to change the state of the person we're talking to. These simple concepts interchanged together, brilliant, right? That's all we need to help incorporate a transformational coaching approach to our everyday conversations, in particular in a workplace. So I'll go back to this. If you want to take a screenshot of that, or hopefully you've written some notes, copy them down, and you can start incorporating them into your everyday life. Start with your partner or someone in your family. I think my girlfriend is sick of me using these expand the mind questions. I tell you what, I've done them to death, but it's great because it improves our relationship, improves our connectedness. So start using them, plug and play, use them in your workplace, and see the results that you get. And you'll be amazed by what people start sharing with you. You'll be amazed at what people start to tell you and open up with you because you've given them that safe space. Right? It's a beautiful thing, our language, the way that we listen and the way that we can inquire to people and how they can shift their own way of being, shift the way that they feel about themselves, their thinking, just by us providing a space for them. and facilitating a creative process of conversation. Now, just to finish off, this picture here represents one person connects to everyone else in an ecosystem, in an organization. So if you can positively influence one conversation, one person at a time, it has a flow-on effect to everyone else. I'm a big believer in, one moment can change someone's life, whether it's through them or through them inspiring someone else and them inspiring someone else. As you can see here in this photo, in this image, that one person can influence so many others. And if we can start to change the way that people see themselves, start to see everything around them, and start to be more open, start to use their powers. I call everyone has a superpower. If they can start to be more vulnerable, give permission for others to be vulnerable and to start to step up by having more conversations that allows the people to transform themselves, to talk openly and be vulnerable, well then what a positive ripple effect that will create in our workplace and in our lives. And that comes from one conversation. So that's it. Thanks everyone for listening. If you would like to connect with me, I'm heavily on Instagram at Evan Spargo, or my LinkedIn, Evan Spargo, website, evanspargo.com. And there's my email there as well, evan@evanspargo.com. If you are interested in learning more about coaching, or you'd like to become a coach, I personally run courses. I know that Shakti, as he said earlier, is in the Coach Masters Academy. So that's the academy that I'm a part of. We do run an online training. I'm running an online training in October, personally myself. So, and that coaching course goes for about 3.5 months. So if that's something you'd like to learn more of, please contact me. I will give you a 5% discount if you are from today. I'll give you to the course if you are interested. So I'll give you a bit of discount to that. So yeah, thanks everyone for listening. And Shakti, I'll give it back to you.
Oh, first of all, Evan, that was phenomenal. I was learning about this for quite some time, but within such a short time, to get the essence out over here, I would really like to say thanks for that. Before I open up for questions, I will say one thing that happened today regarding that one conversation, because today I was having a conversation with one of the bank managers back in India, and he wanted to connect with me, very happy, bubbly. And I was like, so how are you doing with COVID? Instantly, his voice changed. He said he lost his dad 7 weeks ago. His mom's struggling. He's going almost every weekend over there. But the shift, the mask he has to wear to get the best face forward for his clients, the fact somebody asked and that shifted, the connection and the deepness of that, 5 minutes is all that took to just work it out. And that's where, when Evan was saying, and when I truly believe that, you do not know the impact what you can have with just a positive intent put out in the world. So with that, Evan, thanks for spreading that out. Thanks for bringing that to life. And I will open up for questions to people who are as excited as me listening to Evan. Opening up, feel free to just unmute yourself. Jyoti, yes.
Just wanted to say, if you want to stop recording. By the way, did not
Yeah.
know Janani was your student too. She was just texting me.
That's awesome.
Yes.